Welcome to another episode of the Flush Podcast. As always, we can't do this without the support of our partners in the field. Walton's Inc. They have everything but the meats. If you need anything to process and prepare your meat or wild game, Walton's has it. Rufflin Kennels. Fit your bird dog with a Rufflin Performance Kennel for a safe and comfortable ride. And by North Dakota Tourism. Plan to hunt North Dakota this fall and you'll find out why their bird hunting opportunities are legendary. Today, I visit with a very special guest named Sam Daly. His story may inspire you because his mission continues to change the lives of Americans, all because of the work that he does with dogs. Welcome to the Flush Podcast. My name is Travis Frank. On this show, we like to talk about hunting, gear, adventures, habitat, and basically anything else hunting related, including dogs. Sam Daly, thanks for taking time out of your schedule to chat with us today. I'm fascinated and inspired by the work you are doing. How long have you been training dogs?
I've been training dogs 30 years, Travis. I'm older than I wish I was. I've got a little snow on the roof now, but really ever since I got out of college and I bought my first dog because I wanted a hunting dog, I've been training dogs. I went to work for Tom Dokken 30 years ago and had a good experience there, and then started my own business, Northfield Kennels, and it's just been a great adventure.
Why do you like to work with dogs?
You know, dogs are unique. I mean, there's nothing else like them. And so whether it be for on the service side and they're providing, you know, assistance for disabled people or your hunting partner in the blind, you know, there's just nothing else like them. They're very special. They have a lot of ability. I think as a, as a person, I've really just begun to discover their capabilities. You know, whether it's on the detection side for explosives and narcotics, or um, epilepsy, or any kind of diabetic situation. Lots of things that we've just scratched the surface on their capabilities.
Yeah, a lot of our listeners, their dogs are really good at detecting and smelling the birds that we love to hunt, but you use that skill in dogs for something so much bigger. What is the name of your organization and what is your mission?
So we just call ourselves Believet. Believet is a brand name. So Canine Service Partners is our official registered name. But we wanted a brand that we could, have that's a little bit special. And so we just took the word believe and the word veteran and we combined them into Believet. And we provide service dogs free of charge to disabled military veterans. And we really dedicate our lives, to strengthening others, because, many of our veterans, of course, regardless of era that they served or conflict that they served, they do share many shared disabilities based on their service. And we try to empower those military men and women who have served and sacrificed for our country, to help them return to civilian life with dignity and independence. You know, hunting dogs, it's really 90% obedience. They're out there with birds and guns and other dogs and people, and it's a recreational activity. But really, it's about 90% obedience that we're trying to, use them in a productive way. This is no different. The dogs have to do many of the same behaviors. Instead of fetching birds, they may be fetching somebody's car keys out of a snowdrift, or their cell phone that fell behind the bed. And those things, any security items like that, can be really we can really make a difference in how people are able to live independently and return to civilian life, with that dignity and independence.
What are some of the things that you train your dogs to do for them?
Yeah, so we train, the vast majority are psychiatric service dogs. So these are veterans with post-traumatic stress. Okay, so another way to look at that would be a moral injury. So there are definitely, the psychological sides of things where they suffer from, major depressive disorder and tremendous amounts of anxiety. If somebody cuts in front of you or myself, in the line at the grocery store, we might think that person is, kind of rude or being a jerk. But to somebody with post-traumatic stress, it can feel personal, and it can take a simple act like that to escalate into a lot of anger and tremendous anxiety. And so those are the things that we use the dogs for, to help mitigate and distract people from some of those daily occurrences, which can be really triggers. So it can be odors, it can be sounds. When I first got back from Afghanistan, I went to the state fair with my wife because we'd done that forever, and the people there were loading garbage, and they dropped one of these giant uh, steel dumpsters off the back of a garbage truck, and that thing hit the ground like a bomb going off. And I curled up in a ball, and it took me a long time to stop shaking, because I just come from an environment where, those things happened, and people got killed and people got hurt, and so that kind of returning to civilian life with that kind of dignity and independence, it'd be easy to be isolated, right? So the way not to feel like that is not to go to the fair. It's not to spend time with family. It's not to go to the grocery store where somebody could upset you. And that's what we're trying to mitigate here. Give people their lives back. We say we we provide freedom through dogs with a mission.
What are these when they receive these dogs, does it bring peace to them, or how would you describe the effect that it has on them?
Yeah, it can be very life changing. I mean, I'm a pretty realistic guy. I've done a lot of hunting. I've run tons of retriever tests, field trials in the old days, and I understand training and I understand dogs, um, but these dogs really, they bond in a special way, and the. I'm sorry, you're gonna have to remind me of the question now.
Oh, I just was curious as to what effect these dogs have
Yeah,
on an
yeah.
individual when they get them.
Yes, sir. So, the process of learning to train and handle a new service dog can be can be something which breaks you out of a rut. It can be a routine changer. So, for someone who doesn't feel like they have a lot of purpose in life, and they don't have a lot of independence in life, either from physical injuries or from anxiety, public anxiety and depression, having a dog can give those things back to them. So suddenly, like we had one of our clients say at one of our graduations, his wife spoke, and she said, "Before Mark got Ranger, I was Mark's service dog. So if Mark needed to go to Menards, I had to take him because he was not uh, able or comfortable to do it by himself because of this depression, anxiety uh, in doing so. So now the dog allows them to go to the grocery store and deal with life, and it's a great icebreaker, right? If you have a dog and you run into somebody else, they're like, it's a conversation starter. Well, these folks oftentimes have a lot of trouble with strangers, and so being able to break that ice through the use of the dog is very helpful.
How do you find these veterans, or do the veterans find you?
Yes. So usually I'm contacted by a family member. Okay. So there's a mother, there's a spouse, there's somebody who is desperate they're looking for hope. They feel like their loved one, their veteran family member could commit suicide any day. Okay. We already, we all know, probably heard in the news, the suicide rate for veterans is 50% higher than it is for non-veterans. And this is something, in the state of Minnesota, we lose 2 veterans a week, about in that 100 to 104 veterans per year just in Minnesota. And so at the 21 a day suicide rate nationally, it's a big problem. The cost of suicide is tremendous, not just personally, obviously, but through the service dog, we are able to reduce the medicines the veterans are required to take. All of our clients are able to reduce the number of medicines or even eliminate medicines altogether by going to a service dog instead. Um, and and the dog helps keep them on a schedule. For example, they'll get up in the morning, but if they don't have a job, if they're not going to school, if they're in this rut in life, having a purpose, hey, my dog has to go potty, my dog has to get fed. And we love each other, and these are things that give us our life back. So these are some of the things that will help contribute sort of the return on investment on this deal, which is, that the cost of a service dog is not cheap. Okay, it takes us 2 years to do this. It's about $25,000 per team, veteran and dog team that we put out there. The return on that investment is that we don't have these suicides taking place, and it definitely is a suicide reducing, venture here. And they stay out of the emergency room. They stay out of jail and trouble with law enforcement. They stay in their jobs. They stay with their families. These are the things which contribute to a greater community, and they are really the return on the investment. So does that answer your question?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's just incredible. How many dogs do you work with, let's say, per year? Do you have an average or, a set amount that
Mhm.
you can train in a year?
Sure. Like most charities, most nonprofit uh, businesses, we are able to produce what we can afford. So our fundraising definitely is tied to our production. And we have no paid staff. We're 100% volunteer operated. And but we have the facility because of my history in dog training and in hunting and that whole aspect. So we have a facility, we have the people, but they're generous people, skilled people, and so it takes us about 2 years to train one of these dogs. But we're able to do this um, because of the generosity of our contributors, right? So we have 10 dogs in house, which we're training. These dogs are well into the program and they will be placed this calendar year. But we also have another 10 dogs that are out in foster homes. These are young dogs, maybe in the, say, 3 month old to 9 month old age range. And these dogs are being raised by by foster families, which are teaching all the basics and socializing them so that they can come into the program for next year's clients. Now, we don't really know how this shutdown and the whole COVID coronavirus thing is going to affect us. It's we had to cancel our biggest fundraiser of the year. That's a huge problem. And so we can produce um, as much as we can afford. And our contributors, they're used to having a lot of contact with our trainers and our volunteers, like through our events and through our activities. We had to cancel that spring fundraiser, something we always do in April. We had to stop all of our facility tours, which is where people come and learn about us. That's how we meet new contributors and our volunteers. Um, so as things open up here and we're able to get out again, I do about 100 appearances a year at people's business, the different companies. We've been to 3M and uh, several other bigger companies, but also a lot of small construction companies, people that are just great patriots, great Minnesotans. it just proves what we already know, and that there's a lot of good giving people in the state. You still there?
Yep, I'm here. I'm here.
Are you still there?
Yep,
Okay,
can you
because
hear me?
I had
Yep.
something ring me here, yes, I can.
Yeah. Okay. I
Yeah. So,
apologize for
I don't
the
know if that
technical.
if that went on, but
Yeah, no, that's okay. Yep. Um, oh
yeah,
well, okay. So obviously that you're now dealing with a lot of the challenges that everyone else is dealing with too. So your fundraising has been basically eliminated because you can't get out into the public then, right? So do you have a plan? I mean, what's your hope now?
yeah. So our the fundraiser we cancel is normally about a $50,000, uh, you know, activity. That event, it's we depend on those donations to keep the doors open, keep the lights on, and without that, we're going to potentially be in trouble this year. So one thing is it would help if we could direct the listeners to the Believet website. It's just believet.org, and get some information, and asking them to have their friends and family take a look at the website and learn about our work. Um, and then if we have people sign up, we can get some mailings and some videos from us. We would just love to have people join us.
Yeah, I took a look at your website. It shows some of the dogs, like somebody in their bed that might be shaking or having a terrible dream, and the dog would go in and take the sheets off, and it would comfort the person in the bed. I mean, just some of the videos that you've shared on there that show what you're doing is it's just incredible. And people can donate if they choose to, right on that site. Is that correct?
Yes, they sure can. And also, as things open up here too, we are always happy to go tell our story. So if somebody has a church, a community group, a business, we would be happy to come in and tell our story about what we do. And that's how we meet people and develop relationships with volunteers. It's what you described, that nightmare interruption is what we call it. That's our most requested behavior that we train for. So many of our disabled military veterans have these traumatic, vivid, near-death kind of dreams, and many times their spouses or family members are afraid of them, because they're afraid they're going to get an elbow in the cheek, or some kind of injury. And so the dog goes in with a completely different attitude, because they've been trained to recognize that behavior as it's time to go to work. And so they think by waking them up, they're going to get fed, they're going to get let outside, we're going to do something fun. And they don't really have the same negative associations we have with a vivid nightmare kind of situation. And so they pull the blankets off the bed, they turn on a light switch, and they'll comfort that person as they come out of that fog and are able to get their feet back on the ground in a safe environment. And then the family members can get involved, and it's safe for them. So it's just a remarkable behavior, as the dogs bond with these folks, that they recognize this is my job. It's time to go to work.
Wow, these dogs are incredible. What breed do you train?
We use all breeds, so about half the dogs we use for the program come from local animal shelters. So in the last 5 years, we've used dogs from 9 different U.S. states. So a lot of dogs from the South, from Alabama, Mississippi, Georgia, Texas, that are brought up here because they get adopted and cared for up here. And so we go to the animal shelters and evaluate dogs that we think will be suitable for the program. They go through our veterinary medical protocols to make sure that they're sound, and they've done very well. We've had dogs from the Leech Lake area. These are just stray dogs that are picked up by caring individuals, and they end up making their way to our program, and we're very grateful to have them. And then we have some other dogs which are donated to us. So if we have somebody with allergies in their family, we're going to go out and actually recruit a standard poodle for their service dog. And so that's a more hypoallergenic option in the dogs. But we do use an awful lot of Labrador retrievers. They're just really hard to beat. The universal family friendly reputation. And they're normally hardworking and just very personable dogs.
Did well, you kind of explained to me a few days ago how this all began, but you alluded to it already with your story about returning from Afghanistan. How did you get how did you get in this position to what you're doing today? And what did you do in Afghanistan that made you want to do this?
Yeah, so I was recruited by a company in North Carolina called K2 Solutions. Somebody that I knew was already working there. They were looking for trainers to train a brand new program for the Marine Corps called the IDD program, which is an improvised explosive device detection dog. And they were looking for retriever trainers to do this because it was the first time in history that they had used a military working dog off leash to detect explosives. So, as you can imagine, if you have a vehicle or a car bomb kind of situation, and if you have human personnel up there with a dog on a 6 foot leash checking that vehicle, they're in harm's way. And so, by using the dog off leash, like we use our retrievers to duck hunt and pheasant hunt, we're able to provide that standoff. So now we can go check that car from hundreds of yards away, just like we would pick up a goose in the field at hundreds of yards away. And and if they go out there and there is no explosive in the car, just like if they go out pheasant hunting and there's no bird in the field, they're kind of bored and kind of looking to find something else. So the same way was true. They would get bored searching these vehicles or these culverts, bridges, roadways, intersections, um, buildings, and and so you'd be pretty well assured that there's nothing that's a threat about that. But when they get birdie, just like when they get birdie in the cattails or in the switchgrass for a pheasant, they would their tail goes big, their ears go up, they get excited, and because they've been imprinted on those explosive odors, and they equate that odor with getting their Kong toy, and that is a really fun, rewarding, activity for them. So they would indicate where the explosive is buried in the road, for example, and then they'd be called back. And now we know we can send in human personnel to actually dig it up and recover it and certainly make it harmless because we know where it is. The dog showed us where that is, and so they don't aggress in like they do on a pheasant picking up a mallard or something in the pond. They indicate where it is and then they come off it, and so dogs are pretty well out of harm's way, and then we have a very good idea where the bird is because they don't make mistakes. They really don't miss them, and they're not going to tell you that it's there when it's not there. So, you know, sometimes you can have a pheasant in the field and they have a little bit less scent because maybe they were there 30 minutes ago. But if they were there 30 seconds ago, a trained dog, an experienced dog, will know the difference. Well, there's scent here, but it's not here anymore because it was 30 minutes ago. Or there's scent here, and there's a bird that's going to pop up any second because it was just like 30 seconds ago or 3 seconds ago. And so the bomb detection dogs were the same way. They go, well, there's a little odor here, but I can't source it quite right. And they would work with the wind and the conditions and follow that to its point of origin. And then they would indicate exactly within 6 feet where that explosive is buried. So I did that in North Carolina, trained all these dogs, certified them with the Marine Corps, and then train the Marines. So the Marines came to our training facility there, and we worked with all the individual units. And then I went to Camp Pendleton, California, 29 Palms, California, also Camp Lejeune, North Carolina, Yuma Proving Grounds, all these places to get them the pre-deployment training they needed to be successful. And so the dogs were going to deploy with the regular infantry units. And so I was attached to an infantry unit as a civilian contractor. So I deployed to Afghanistan 2 times with 2 different Marine battalions, and those were very stressful times. Obviously, it's not like pheasant hunting where, well, if you miss the bird, you can tease your buddy. Boy, it's life and death. And but these dogs and the handlers with these dogs, they saved many lives, many injuries. I mean, really, they saved generations of veterans, generations of our war fighters by mitigating this situation. IEDs were the biggest threat in the AO. I was in southern Helmand province, in a small community called Musakela, and we that was our biggest threat, was the threat of IEDs, and so these dogs were very effective, and every day we were hunting for them, and every day they were finding them, and saving a lot of pain and sorrow, and sending these folks on to the rest of their lives.
How many dogs did you have over there?
So in 2012, when I was with the 2nd Battalion, 5th Marines, we had 34 dogs in the battalion. And so those were located at various outposts or forward operating bases in Helmand Province. And so I would travel to the various forward operating bases to retrain and make sure the dogs were healthy, make sure the handlers had what they needed, make sure the unit was utilizing the dogs. Because again, this was a new program, and the tendency was to say, well, I don't know that much about it, and we've got all this other technology. And so they could maybe not utilize the asset the way they could potentially. So that was a big thing, was to communicate with leadership in the battalion to encourage and make sure that we can troubleshoot any issues they have and get them utilizing the dogs, because there's nothing more effective at finding explosives on the battlefield than a dog. You can take all the radar and the metal detectors and everything else. It's none of it is as effective as the dog.
Did you lose any?
We did. We did have some injuries. We did lose the dog in an explosion as well. Um, but again, you have to have compassion, certainly, for the animals. We worked in a lot of heat, very difficult conditions, and these Marines were not professional handlers. Okay, the Marine Corps does not have an MOS for dog handlers like the Army does or the Air Force does. These were other infantrymen. They worked in supply. They worked in various MOSs that gave them an extra responsibility as a dog handler. And so, although we are very compassionate about the dogs. Honestly, if there's a choice between somebody having their leg blown off or being killed by a hidden explosive or losing a dog on that same front, I'll take the dog, because the handler is more important. The handler has a family. They have people who love them. They're going to have future, contributions to our country's security and certainly our communities. So they certainly take priority. But we hate to lose the dogs, but they did the job, and certainly served bravely in that capacity.
Would these soldiers, would they form their own bonds with the dogs that they went to war with?
Yeah, that was one of the big connections here to Believet and to our current service dog work, is that not only were the dogs very effective on the battlefields at finding hidden explosives, but they were also very comforting, and they brought a lot of joy to the units back at the forward operating bases. So, there was that companionship and that just that fun, joy, and release that the dogs could provide, like we can all appreciate with their dogs at home. And so, to have both elements, not only the battlefield capability, but also the personal and morale building capabilities. Uh, Tremendous asset. Very, very lucky to be part of that environment, part of that program. Yeah, they provided a lot of joy and love and comfort while these young Marines are away from home serving their country.
This may be a difficult question to answer, but When you were over there, did you experience things that you saw that you struggle with today that maybe your time spent with these dogs helps you as well, brings peace to you as well?
So, I mean, I definitely still have my own fears about the experience, and even though it's 6 years ago now, they stay with me, and they sometimes pop up at really odd times, and I can't appreciate what many of our servicemen and women um, have have seen and done. But I mentioned earlier a little bit about the moral injury. Now, the VA recognizes moral injury in battlefield soldiers. So think about this: if you've seen or you've done something which is which is obviously not compatible with your moral being, these are things that you had to do, you had to see that you were part of, and but they're compromised, right? How do you how do you balance those things with now living a life? And so I'll just give you an example, right, Travis? So if if there's um, a convoy. One of the things about being mobile is you normally have to keep moving when you're on the battlefield, right? You can't stop because you become an easier target. And so, if the um, tactics, techniques, and procedures of the enemy are to send a child to run out in front of the vehicles, most people's reaction is to stop so you don't hit the child, right? Um, but it was used by the enemy as a way to set up an ambush. And so for a young, 20 to 25-year-old young man or woman to be the driver of that vehicle, or even a passenger in the vehicle, that has to make a decision: do I stop for this child and put everyone at risk, or do I keep going the way I'm trained and told to? It's a terrible situation for anyone to be in, and definitely a life-altering experience where you're just not going to get that kind of loss, that kind of decision out of your mind in any short amount of time. And there's no medication, there's no amount of sleep, there's nothing that you can get that's going to make that easier. So these are some of the moral injuries that we oftentimes deal with and see through our veterans that we serve here through our service dog program.
Oh, it's heartbreaking. I can't even imagine. When you returned, how long did it take for you to know that this was the mission that you wanted to take up?
Yeah, so like most people, I think when you return from a battlefield environment, I was just in a fog for like a year, and I did not feel like training hunting dogs anymore. I really didn't know what I was going to do. And But through speaking about the experience, it did come around to where we saw this new mission to provide freedom for veterans through dogs with a mission. We provide service dogs free of charge for these disabled military veterans. And when I got off the plane at March Air Force Base in California, um, with all the Marines and their dogs, the dogs were taken away from the Marines, loaded on a trailer, and went down the road for their next assignment. You talk about an emotional, uh, charged environment. These Marines had trained with these dogs for a long time. They provided a lot of comfort and joy, as well as saving maybe their own lives and others' lives. It's not like turning in your rifle at the armory. This is it was different. And so the Marines all wanted to adopt their dogs after being deployed with them, and they couldn't. And really, I felt getting off that plane like I wanted to adopt all the Marines, and I couldn't. So, so it's it's just a hard thing to see. Battle hardened Marines right off the battlefield in Afghanistan, in a very emotional state as they return home. Everyone wants to get home. Everyone wants to go see their family. They can't wait to do that. I know when I went through medical post deployment, I would have told the doc anything I needed to get out of there and go home and see my wife. But many of the things that people suffer when they return from a deployment don't come up right away. You don't exhibit signs like you do if you broke your arm. And so they take a long time, and oftentimes when they go through that post-deployment medical, it's not as obvious to them that they are going to need help and support down the road. And many things can trigger it, like I say, odors, sounds, different situations, but families can be, dramatically impacted by this. And so we just felt like this was something in our wheelhouse. We can train these dogs. We have the capability. We're not just a well-intentioned group that's sort of clueless about this project. We know we can do this. And so it's in development every day, right? We improve our processes every day, but we still have that baseline competency where we can produce product that is effective and life-changing for these injured veterans.
How do families, maybe somebody listening right now that knows somebody that could really use a life-changing dog, how do they connect with you? Is there a waiting limit or a line right now of people waiting for these service
Yeah,
dogs?
yeah. So obviously, based on our funding, it does restrict how much we can produce. That is, our facility and our staff are able to produce more than we can afford. But we do pretty well. We do pretty darn well with what we have, and we're going to be, reaching out to people through our community involvements. But the best way really is just to call me. That because you can call me. My cell phone's always on, and I talk to people all the time about this. We have some people on a waiting list. Yes, we do. We don't want 100 people on a waiting list. That's definitely true too. But we're also going to give people, we're going to kind of throw them a bone here, right? We're going to give them some hope that we care about them, we understand them, we'll meet them wherever they are on their journey. And we can't produce these overnight. We're not just bolting together, an MRAP to send to deployment. We are building something over a two year period, but they're involved every step of the way, and their family is oftentimes involved every step of the way because coming through our door the first time is very difficult. These are people that are highly isolated normally, and they have lots of anxiety about new people. And to go someplace and to walk through our door is very risky. It's out of their comfort zone, and so we just do everything we can to make them feel part of our family here, and that they can trust us. But call me on my phone, check out our website and contact me there. Email me, check us, send us a note on Facebook. Any way you need to, we can intervene in a very loving, kind, gentle way, and hopefully provide a path to future hope and growth. That's what we say is we change post-traumatic stress into post-traumatic growth. It's that's what we try to do here.
A lot of hunters may not ever look at their bird dog the same way again after learning how they can dramatically impact and save lives just through the work that you're doing with them. You also take some veterans on a pheasant hunt each fall. Is that how long have you been doing that?
Right. So I've been. Here's the thing: is when you train dogs, at least in the old days, there weren't any dogs to train in the fall because they all went hunting. So being out of work made it pretty easy to hook up with a hunting lodge in South Dakota, and so I worked at Thunderstick Lodge in Chamberlain, and now I work at Buffalo Butte Ranch over by Winter and Gregory, South Dakota. And there's just a lot of great people who hunt, and certainly a lot of veterans, and a lot of our veteran clients that have these service dogs. They like to hunt too, or at least they used to. And so it's in our, again, it's in our wheelhouse. It's our capability where we can take these service dogs and do some bird and gun training with them, so they can go out and enjoy them in the field. And the hunt that we do in the fall, we'll be at Buffalo Butte Ranch here in November. Um, it is about healing more than it's about hunting. So just being together with the other veterans, there's a bond, there's a connection that civilians cannot appreciate. These folks are used to having other people's lives in their hands, and their life in others' hands. And so to have that, to have that feeling of somebody covering your back and going to do something recreational, for somebody who's been isolated a long time, felt defeated, felt hopeless. It's more about healing than it is about hunting. But of course, they get to take their service dogs who are maybe going to school with them or going to work with them, riding on the bus or the train, flying in airplanes with them. Now they're able to take them to the field and let them go get muddy and chase a bird around and just have a good, relaxing time. So that's what we're about, is supporting these folks and giving them a look into a more hopeful future.
Do you still train dogs for bird hunting at your kennel, or is it just service dog training?
Now we do. So we keep the lights on around here. We keep Believet and the service dog program running through our hunting dog training. So we do family dog training and hunting dog training. Again, like I say, hunting is 90% obedience for training. It's just under more distracting circumstances. So it's not that different than family dog training. We just have to have the bird and gun and the water and the decoys and the boat and all those kinds of things, element of it too. But yeah, we train here. That income that we get from training the hunting dogs, maybe selling a puppy every so often, those things keep the lights on and keep the service dog program going, because we're able to produce more dogs. It's like a fundraiser for our nonprofit, and so we do that. We enjoy it. I don't have time to run the AKC hunt test. I used to do a lot of judging. I don't have time to do those things anymore. I do miss it, and maybe someday I'll be able to get back to that. But right now, this is the priority. This is our mission, and provide these service dogs for these disabled veterans.
What is the name of your kennel again, and where are you located?
Yeah, so we're called Northfield Kennels, and that's because we're in Northfield, Minnesota, and we've been at this location for 21 years now. So we're well set. We have great people, a nice facility, some good property, for training, and just invite people to, come for a visit sometime, and check us out.
Fantastic. Sam, I just can't even thank you enough for opening up about your mission, your story. Um, I mean, without a doubt, you are an absolute hero in the lives of so many people. And I just appreciate what you're doing today, what you've done for all of us. And if anybody feels inspired to reach out to you, it's believevet.org. Sam, I pray that you power through this COVID crisis and you continue to save lives.
Thank you very much, Travis. I appreciate this opportunity.
All right. Well, we will catch you on next week's episode of the Flush Podcast. I'm not entirely sure yet who we're going to talk to, but man, I know my life has been changed today just from talking with Sam, and I do know that there are a lot of other people out there that, hey, maybe it's just a conversation. If you can't go and visit them right now, maybe it's just picking up the phone and calling and just saying hi. We don't know the effect that it might have on somebody's lives, but it could be a big one. Take care, everybody. Stay safe, and we'll see you next week. We won't see you, but I'll talk to you next week on the Flush Podcast.